In today's video, I want to show you how to take an initial pose, a gesture, and then push it further with each iteration. So let's dive on in. So we're going to start with the one furthest to the right, and the initial gesture is just going to be about capturing flow and energy and movement, but not worrying so much about anything being too correct. First, we'll start with an action line. So that's really the best way to sort of simplify the process, is to look at the entire pose and go, if I had to place it, if I had to create it with one line, and again, energetically through the pose, where would that line be? It's not always as easy to do, especially when the body is kind of curled over, hunched over. C-like shapes are a little bit more difficult. But with this one, a nice sweeping sort of curved line. Try to really avoid straight lines in general. You see, even as I draw the arms here, I'm doing my best to almost imagine them as curves. Even if you think of the arm from the shoulder to the elbow, instead of a straight line there and a stick person, a little bit more a curve, but you'll see a lot of artists do their best to draw from the shoulder even to the wrist as one sweeping line. I find that to be a little bit difficult where I'm at, but again, it's something to consider, that if you can throw that quick sweeping line in there, and think of a lot of like S curves. I talk in other videos about CSI, and that's like, C shape, S shape, S curve, C curve, and I curve, which is really what that action line initially was. And also the other way to consider it is that kind of envision the spine of the character. Now you see I didn't do that. The spine is a lot more of an S curve, but it is something to kind of consider as you draw these poses. Like, what would that spine look like? It really helps when you place the head. So the head is going to sit on the neck, and you don't want to think of the neck as just a straight cylinder. You could do that, but it's going to look more rigid. But if you think of that curvature of the spine, how it does that little swoop before it connects to the back of the head there, it just looks more organic. In fact, I don't feel like I captured it here, by the way, but this is our first initial sketch gesture, and we can now go from here and say, okay, how can we try to elaborate on this? So again, it's going to be the same pose, but we're going to try to stretch the pose. Now, one thing to consider is that when you do stretch the pose, you can just think of the three main masses of the figure: the head, upper torso, lower torso, or pelvis area, and you can just try to stretch and twist those away from one another. I didn't consider that as much here, but again, it's something to consider. It's something to help you sort of push the figure as far as you can, maybe up until or a little past the point that it starts to feel broken, and then pull back from there. It's like anything else. Sometimes we have to test our limits to know where they're at, then pull back a little bit. So with this one, you see I'm taking a little bit different approach. I'm going for those three main masses first. So maybe a little bit more of a structural version, but I'm still trying to think gesturally. Here you'll see I really try to get an S curve in for the leg. So, real simplification of the leg is that it bends forward up until it gets to the knee, and then from the knee to the ankle, it bends back from, this particular perspective. And the arm, again, I'm trying my best to use this sort of one line all the way to the wrist. I'll be honest, so it doesn't feel entirely natural. I just want to try it to, again, stretch the pose, try to lean more into the organic nature of it. You see, I still feel like I got to edit it, and I very rarely, if ever, erase when doing the initial gesture. I just felt like it was just flat out wrong, but or too straight. But that was at the expense of me trying to do something that really doesn't feel as natural to me. It's just something I've read that is important to do with gesture drawing, to really, throw your lines from your shoulder, at least from your elbow, less about your wrists. But there's only so much of that I can do. So this part here, I'm going more shape-based now, just to give you a better visual, you and myself, a better visualization of the figure, of the forms, of the volume. But again, it does sort of move a little bit further away from gesture at this point and become more structural and refinement, sort of checking the work. So that's really what all this is. I'm just sort of doodling over it, getting some ideas of wrapping lines in there, checking the direction and form and flow of the volumes of the body, essentially. I'm still kind of wondering if I want to see the bottom of the chin. And here I'm just showing you the direction of these forms a little bit more. That's the other thing, that when you're twisting and contorting these three main masses of the body, you want to have a good sense of exactly where they're pointing. So for this last one, again, same figure. I know this can probably seem, well, redundant, right? But at the same time, I really got a lot out of this one, and that's why I wanted to share it. I feel that this is something I should probably do more of, and maybe you'll find value in it and do it more as well, because I don't know, I guess there's times that I probably would have drew it twice and stopped with that second one and thought to myself, yeah, I can make that work. Of course I can refine that and make that into a good pose. But then it just got better, I feel, and you can be the judge, for the third iteration here. So again, it's maybe we need to do more of this. Maybe we need to draw the figure multiple times and really challenge ourselves to bring out certain organic aspects, or twist and contort the torso more, or all the different ors you can think of, right? Do this, do that, try all the variables. And we all know that volume generally just leads to true development, right? And I feel like that's always the case with art. I think that a lot of times people just give up far too quickly, and they're not in it for the long haul, and they're not patient enough with their own progress. And so, yeah, maybe iterations like this are good for all of us. I definitely felt that it was good in this particular instance. So, but again, I'm trying to, you see I'm raising the arms up more notably. I am changing the pose as well, but it's still essentially the same pose. It's still the same concept that I was going for, but I did think in my head, okay, how can I, pinch the back portion of the torso, bring the shoulder down a bit, and get that pinch from the, where the lat is, down to the glutes, like really try to compress that a bit more. And then by doing that, making the legs look more dramatic or energetic, hopefully. So that was the goal here. And you see now I'm going right for shape-based, silhouette drawing essentially. Now I know a lot of people will probably tell you that's not as gestural. I tried to combine these concepts, and hopefully you've seen that each one of these was done a little bit differently. But I try not to be so rigid in my approach, but rather think about what suits the individual aspect that I need. So for legs, I have a certain method. Arms, or another method. They're not. And I would say even based upon the angle or the pose of what I'm drawing, and definitely from male to female, like there's just different components that I use differently. So for male characters, I'm going to be a lot more likely to use angles and go in with a sense of rigidity, even sometimes in parts of the gesture, and a lot more organic and fluid lines for the female. So there's different concepts, and I just basically use them as needed, essentially. But ultimately, I feel like the third one is the best. Again, you can be the judge here. I just wanted to share this with you today. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, keep drawing, keep having fun, and bye for now.